All right, guys, we are back. Sorry for the tech issues. I'm gonna also hop on my cell phone here, just in case the internet decides to act up, or Zoom, because I seem to be online. But anyways, we're back here with Mike Cooch. A brief introduction is Mike has run multiple seven-figure businesses, from a publishing company, an e-commerce company, IT, and even a digital marketing agency. The reason I think this live is extremely important is because he's been there, he's done that. This will act as like such a valuable asset to wherever you are in your career, whether you're just scaling up your business or you need help with people, product, or process. So with that being said, hey, thanks for the patience on fighting through these tech issues, Mike. I
Of
really
course, no problem.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a weird angle. I switched laptops as well, so don't mind my awkward angles back here. Those pictures are actually straight, so it's not just uneven paintings there.
That's all good. They get my background here as well. So, oop.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, hey, can you give a brief background? I know you started talking on the previous live, but so we can consolidate it into one here. Can you give a brief background on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been an entrepreneur my whole career, primarily selling to small businesses my entire career. I got started in Silicon Valley during the original dot-com boom, and I had moved out to Northern California after college. Didn't know anything about technology, but just kind of dived into that world out there and ended up starting some businesses. Went to business school out in Boston, and then started Everon Technology Services, which was my IT services firm that I built up for about 8 years and then sold. And then started my marketing services company, Kutenda. And since then, I've been just doing a variety of things. I like being, having my hands in multiple things, and just kind of that whole serial entrepreneur approach. And so, as you mentioned, I've done e-commerce. I've got a local media business now, or publishing business now, here in San Diego, as well as my training business that I do as well. So keep them busy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So Mike and I have met multiple times, like three or four times in San Diego at various events. Some he's spoken at. So that's why I wanted to steal his ear today to talk about what a lot of people struggle with, which is scaling their business. And oftentimes that trouble starts at how they start. And one of those things that I've taken away from Mike years ago, which has helped me in my business, is productization, and having a repeatable process. That just makes it easier for to comprehend what you even sell, make it easy to explain and offer to the end clientele, but then also simplifies the training process for the people underneath you, so they're not confused with all this crazy custom work. And I know that when we spoke about a year and a half ago or so, we were talking about the same exact topic. So going into like productization, why is that so important right now
Yeah.
for marketing agencies?
Yeah, man, it's so important for anybody selling services, particularly if you're selling services to small businesses, though. There's a couple of major reasons. One is the sales cycle in selling to small businesses is so important to try to control the time and control the costs around that sales cycle. And people don't give this nearly as much attention as they should in terms of determining if they're going to have a real viable growth model and a profitable business. That sales and marketing cycle can eat up so much money and so much time. And that's largely because the way most people sell their services is they're not productized at all. They're this nebulous, like, I'm a consultant, I'm an agency, I'm a coach. And that just makes it hard for the customer to understand and to make a buying decision, versus if you have a productized service. And by productized, we can put a price point to it. We can put boundaries around it. We can say with a bullet list, here are the features and benefits that you're going to get. Very similar to if you were to sign up for a piece of software online and see the 3 different plans, and here's what you get. It's the same thing. It just makes it easier for that customer to make a buying decision. And so everything can happen much faster. I know this is what I'm going to get. I don't have to sit down and go through a 3-meeting proposal process with you, or I've got my whole team in here trying to evaluate what you're talking about. So that side of it is critical, that whole sales and marketing side. And then to match that up on the service side, when you have your service productized, you've got those very clear deliverables. And so you can build a very systematic process around those clear deliverables so that, as you said, you can get team members trained up and have them be able to deliver that service with consistency, predictability, cost control. And that's how you get scale.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned was boundaries. It
Yeah.
allows you to have what we call is scope of work, right?
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, tell me in the comments if this sounds familiar, that a client asks for something that they didn't pay for and you don't know how to handle the situation, so you just do it. And once you do it, you just created the boundary, and there is no.
Mhm.
And you constantly go over and over. Then you have those hard conversations about like, hey, this isn't included. You guys are internally frustrated, and they're externally just don't know. I know I've personally been there, so I'm speaking not only from experience but also doing something about it and creating those boundaries. And that's why it's important to like have these productization sets, like Mike said, which is A, B, and C, just like software programs online. It's very clear. Like we're on Zoom right now. There's the free Zoom, there's the $15 Zoom, there's the webinar Zoom, and there's other levels. So you know exactly what you're getting for exactly what you pay for. So
Yeah.
monetization is key. Now, when it comes to marketing services, what do you recommend, like quantity wise? Is there any kind of specific number or of packages people should have to make it easy for on the buyer decision if they're targeting, like the context will be small businesses?
Yeah. I haven't done enough like formal research or anything like that to know like how much it truly matters. For me personally, I've always liked 3. And I think, again, just going into human psychology, the reason why is 3 is simple to evaluate. And I have found over the years that people will self segment into one of those 3 tiers very naturally. Like, I am either a bargain shopper, or I'm a luxury shopper, or I'm in that middle of the road. And I think everybody, whether they realize it or not, you quickly put yourself into one of those buckets, and you have a whole psychology around it. Some people think that if I'm paying any more than the cheapest thing, I'm getting ripped off. Some people think that if I'm paying anything less than the luxury thing, I'm not getting the treatment I deserve. And then there's the majority of the market that's actually somewhere in between there. And once they're in there, they may consider their options. Maybe I want to upgrade, maybe I want to downgrade, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to kind of play it safe here in the middle. So people evaluate based on price point. So when you have those 3 different tiers of price point, that's important. But also when it comes to services, there's a very nice, just kind of natural structure of, I think that there's 3 small business buyers. So there's tools buyers. So give me the tools and let me do it myself. And so that's naturally going to be the lowest price point. Just give me those tools. There is also what we refer to as an agency customer. And I think language here is really important, that an agency customer really wants and expects something more custom and handheld. And so that is that premium buyer and premium price point. And then there's the middle, again, which I think is the far majority of the small business market, wants what I call a system. Mm-hmm. So if in my language, the system would be what you're layering on top of the tools to help them easily execute and get the results from those tools that they want, so that they don't have to learn and execute the tools on their own. So it's not custom. I'm not doing custom agency work for you. I'm also not just giving you a tool and setting you off on your own. As an example, let's say it's an email marketing tool or service. With the system version, you would get access to the tools, but I'm also loading it with my 25 proprietary email campaigns for your industry. And I'm providing some ongoing management service to getting those campaigns out the door for you on a consistent basis. Now, if you came to me and said, well, I want all custom campaigns and I want custom send schedule and all that, well, then that's an agency service. So that's how I think about those three different layers. And again, those three buckets, I don't know that there's a magic formula, but it just has always really worked for me.
Yeah, I like to use the number of three as well. A, it's easier to put together. B, like you mentioned, self-segmentation. They can choose where they are.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I present pricing when it comes to agency retainer work is I'll just go through the presentation and I'll just say, hey, here are three options. Which one do you feel you fall in line with the most?
Yeah.
Let's
That's fantastic. That's great. That's perfect sales language. And you know, the thing that I can say for sure is what I think is wrong. I actually was looking at an business's website the other day, an agency, if you will, that they were doing a really nice job of structuring these packages. And I saw them and I was like, oh, these guys are doing a great job. I like what they're doing. And then I went to their website and looked at the full, you know, variety of packages, and they had like 20 something different service levels detailed on there. And I mean, I sat there and I looked at it and I was like, man, I can't tell the difference between 3 and 7 or 7 and 12. And, you know, then it's all just overwhelming again. And it's back to, it's hard for me to make a decision. Now I actually have to get on a phone call with you and do consultative selling and all that stuff again, because, you know, I can't make a decision between these 20 packages on my own. So I think, especially with small businesses, again, they can't pay you a ton. You've got to control variables. You've got to control costs. You've got to control speed. And anything that you can do to play to, I think, our lizard brains and human nature and just make it simple for us, I think is a win.
Totally. No, I love that. That kind of leads me into like the next level of the lizard brain as far as like getting into hiring.
Mm.
Uh, because now people are going to be like the scalable part of pushing the product, marketing the product, supporting the product. And
Mm-hmm.
services. Like, what's your approach to hiring people?
That's a great question. It's certainly evolved over the years, and I think a lot of that is driven by the fact that the marketplace has changed a lot over the years. Right? There's a lot more entrepreneurial thinking. People don't necessarily want to be an employee; they like to be, you know, independent and stuff like that. So it's definitely impacted how I do things. I think the first rule for me, though, is that I always hire for cultural fit first, right? So I'm looking for that person who understands this is what we're all about. This is how we take care of our employees. This is how we contribute to our team. Because that's the stuff that I don't know that you can ever teach, right? So if somebody doesn't have that, that I honestly, I don't want to spend my time trying to teach that. So I look for that first. Second, and this has really changed over the years for me. So I used to be very heavy on investment in training my team. So I would get that cultural fit. I almost didn't care if they had the skills at all. And I would bring them on board and put them through a big intensive training program. I mean, I invested a ton of money and a ton of energy into that. Now I actually look for people who have the skills right away. And again, I think a big part of that is because of the way that, you know, the idea of employment has changed so much, and also because of the online marketplaces for talent. Like you can find those specific skill sets like really easily now. I mean, it's you know, you can just pull up a database and search and be like, okay, I want somebody who can do this and do that. Let me see their portfolio. And that was impossible, you know, 10 years ago, right? So now it's so easy that I look for that as well. So I expect that I can find somebody, bring them on board, and have them make an immediate impact. And if they can't, it's generally kind of like out the door as quickly as they came in. And so I typically bring people on now with a 30-day trial type of thing. You know, hey, let's make sure it's a good fit for both of us. And we usually know very quickly. And that has changed, because in the past, I brought on always employees. And again, I would train them. So when I brought them on board, I was making a multi-year investment in my mind in those people. And that's just changed now. And I think it works for both parties, honestly.
Yeah, no, totally. Because like we do something similar whenever we bring somebody on, it's always going to be the trial run. 30 days is a good fit because you really do know, are they going to be like a good fit communication wise? Are they going to get along with everybody and have that like X factor of being like perky or like fun, like so they're
Right.
excited. And then of course attitude. Do they have the right go-getter, even if they're not great at what they specifically do just yet? The attitude is just so important. Or like
So
some
important.
yeah, because I hate it when people just like mope. They're like, "Oh, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Uh, not so much. Let me think if I can get to it." It's
Yeah.
like just little cues are just like red flags. Even though from the entrepreneur, for anybody out there listening, sometimes it's just a test. Sometimes we just want to know, like, do you guys have the right attitude and motivation
Right.
to grow yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that are really fast tells for me. So one, if somebody tells me, I don't have time. And like I mean, literally, if you want to see my head pop, it's when I've hired somebody and they tell me I don't have time. And particularly, and this is being totally biased, I know, but if they're like younger, no kids, all that type of stuff, and they tell me they don't have time to get to something, I'm like, oh my gosh, like where's your hustle gene? Because
Mhm.
I've got 3 kids, I've got multiple businesses, I've got, and I have time. I don't use that excuse, right? So that's a fast one for me. The other thing is I'll ask people, who in your space. So let's say you're a designer, let's say you're a photographer, whatever. I'll ask them right away, who do you study? Who do you follow and study? And if you're not able to immediately give me a list of these are the names of people that influence me, that I study their work, I follow them on Instagram, I absorb everything that they create. If I listen to their podcasts, like if you can't tell me that right away, it is an immediate red flag. You're not a learner, you're not obsessed with what you're doing. You're just going through the motions. Those are to me that either of those two things, like very hard to recover from.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like your clients probably think very similar because they're hiring out for expertise. So
Yeah,
these questions not only apply to maybe your employer, but also if you're an agency owner, your clients too. They want to feel confident in their investment, especially if you're charging multiple thousands of dollars per month. They want to get that money back in return on investment or have a scalable process for their business. So just keep that in mind that people want to know what you learn, who you learned it from, and what your experience level is. Not that they're going to be like looking up your resume, but through your presentations or your pitch, you can bring those things up proactively to throw that out there before they become like interview type questions, if you will.
that's right.
Um, like,
Absolutely.
then you don't have to have like objections or last minute stuff, even in an interview for a guy like Mike or myself. But just for your clients, it's just good to be prepared versus get caught off guard and then lose it all after 2 or 3 meetings if you're new.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say, all right, it's just you built this awesome business and now you need to take off. Who's your first hire?
Mm. That's a great question. So for me, my first hire is going to be somebody that can take over some of the operational aspects of the business. And, depending on kind of where I'm at and budget that I have and stuff like that, that could be a relatively junior person. It could be somebody who's like a chief operating officer if I had the finances and I'm really trying to scale aggressively. If not, it could be more like a project manager or even an administrative assistant, right? But I view myself, and I think most successful entrepreneurs, not all, but most successful entrepreneurs view themselves as the revenue engine, the revenue driver. I'm the sales and marketing person. And so I want to be able to offload as much as I possibly can that prevents me from spending time in that role. So yeah, so anybody that can take over any of that operational aspect for me is going to be my go-to hire.
Cool. Then hire number two. What's number two?
Hire number two is actually, so it's interesting. Again, a little bit nuanced based on the business itself. But I would actually then look for somebody in the sales role, so that I can quickly try and put myself in the CEO role and stay there as much as possible. So if I can get a really good high producing salesperson that can match my output or even produce, more than I can because they're 100% focused on that role, then that allows me to really be strategic about the development of the business and be more in that CEO role. I still think as a CEO, particularly of a smaller business, you're always going to be a major, major revenue driver. But if I can shift that revenue driving to more strategic relationships, more marketing instead of sales, then I would prefer to spend my time on those things and have somebody that can actually handle the transactional sales side of things.
Yeah, no, I love that just because like even though like when you're doing sales and then you're also doing like let's say operational roles like administrative, billing people, sending contracts out, even following up with clients on the status of their project, that's draining.
Yeah.
Uh, because when your mind is churning to drive revenue and then you have a spoke in your wheel that's like, all right, well, I got to take care of the revenue I've generated,
Mhm.
really kind of takes you off path because it seems easy as an entrepreneur. I can just hustle 10, 20 hours a day. But then like you only have a window of like 10 to 12 hours at max of sales and your energy is only so high to expend.
Yeah.
The younger you are, the more you can kind of just go balls to the wall and just hustle, hustle, hustle. But as you get a little bit older, you start to get more strategic, and your energy is better placed because you don't have to hustle as hard. You just hustle a little bit smarter. But yeah, I agree. Getting that shit off your plate is just so important. And you can even in today's world, like you can literally hire a virtual assistant and they don't have to actually be like associated to overseas. They could be two blocks down the road and they can work from home.
Yeah.
So the VA kind of tag, like, I mean, I started back in 2004, and back then, like when people talk about how many VAs you have, I'm like, we didn't call them VAs. We just called them
Yeah.
people who live here.
Yeah. No kidding. Isn't that crazy to think? Yeah, because I mean, in that time period and for years afterwards, everybody I hired was a full-time employee, and they were in my office pretty much. So yeah, I mean, that's totally changed. The people that I have here in San Diego that work with me, they're not. I mean, we're never in an office, and they're not full-time employees, and it's just a different world. But I think getting back to that sales and marketing time and function, I think that the most important, essentially first thing that any entrepreneur in today's world can do is to invest in automating as much of their sales and marketing process as humanly possible. And so that's, once I understand enough about my business, and I've got some revenue coming in, I will, as quickly as possible, again, that CEO hat, work on building that system and having that in place. That's not something I can expect a salesperson to do. A salesperson is going to, again, do transactions, close deals, follow up with people. But I can spend my time putting in that infrastructure, designing that infrastructure for the automation of the sales and marketing process. And then when I do that, everything else has leverage, right? And so when you're talking about that selling time that you have each day, as much as possible, what I want to do is make that a non-factor, right? I want to have something out there that's working for me 24/7. And I think anybody who's not investing in that in today's world is just in a serious disadvantage.
Yeah, and it's just going to turn into like extra hustle, extra late night hours because before, like back 10 years ago, it was available back then and it was more available to larger companies because it costs a lot more.
Yeah.
We had maybe like Aweber or MailChimp was just getting started or something then. But now we have all these tech tools that can like, I mean, somebody responds to something, a trigger of sequences can automatically go out and it's now button pushing. It just takes like doing it, mapping it out, talking to somebody with experience. But I agree, automating as much as possible is really, really critical.
Yeah.
So far, like for you guys that are here, hashtag live if you're here with us live, hashtag replay if you're watching it on the replay. So far, we've covered productization of your offers. So if you missed that, go back and watch the beginning, how important it is to make it clear and easy for people to buy so you can scale. Then we touched on people. Who are the key core people in the beginning of your agency so you can kind of take that and run and grow versus digress. Because I know so many agencies that will be like up and down, up and down, up and down constantly, and they'll be with like anywhere between 5 and 10 clients in the next 5 years. That
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the case. You have to look at it as these $3 an hour VA ads that you see, that may not be the best position for you. You may need somebody right next to you to help be that drill sergeant that helps build your SOPs. And those are standard operating procedures. So you can literally say, hey, I need to hire a graphic designer that's going to do 10 designs a week, find somebody on a virtual assistant site. So have delegate all that task so you can kind of build your, what Mike was saying is build your sales engine, your marketing engine, and then the CEO tasks. Because when you're in that CEO role, that's when you're in your zone of genius and you can just grow your company. And then ultimately, you touched on partnerships or JVs. Uh,
Mhm.
can you touch a little bit more on an example of how, let's say I'm an agency owner and I sell only to, let's say, personal injury lawyers,
Mhm.
and only do SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
What would be a good JV to get my message in front of somebody else's audience?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Yeah, I'm a big believer when you're selling to small businesses in particular that, I call them channels. I look for channels that have already pulled together my ideal audience that I can then market through. And so in that particular case that you're referring to, I would be looking for any sort of industry associations that I can partner up with or just market through. It may not be a partnership of any sort. It may literally be they sell ads in their newsletter that goes out to 20,000 personal injury lawyers, and I can just buy an ad in that newsletter. Great. It may be that I can run an educational webinar through them or speak at their trade show, their conferences, whatever it is. So I look for those existing channels, and then more on like the partnership front. In most big industries now, there is somebody that's got some sort of established software tool that it might make sense to partner with, or there are coaches in that industry that don't do what you do, but they coach them on overall success of their firm and how to grow their firm. So you might be able to supply the SEO services side of that. So they're looking for people that already have that relationship though. And the key is, can you add value? Can you add value to that channel, so to that coach or to that association or to that software provider? And then can you add value to their customers and their community? And if you can do that and you can say with a straight face, yeah, here's how I can make your world better and make their world better, then you're going to find those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. So anybody out there that has like a niche, if you want to drop your niche in the comments, go for it. And I can spitball an idea back to you, whether it's live on this video or afterwards, because there's so many simple ways where you can partner with people. And I mean, that's one key element of how I built my business in the beginning. And had I not done that early, I don't know if I'd even have a business. It was kind of my funding source by having a really good partner that paid us a lot of money, and it allowed me to be an order taker like Starbucks. People would come in, tell me what they wanted, and they get out of line.
Yeah.
Uh, so you can do that for your business. It's not like as it may not be as easy as it was before, or it could be easier depending on how you position yourself. But one thing we know is other businesses that are like, let's say you have a PPC marketing company and they don't offer SEO services, they want to provide more value to their clients so their clients don't go to an all-in-one. So people are looking to partner already,
Yeah.
and that's an idea that you can give them is saying, hey, look, do you ever have clients that go to an all-in-one? Maybe we can have a partnership where I don't step on your toes, you don't step on mine. While we can just refer business back and forth, or we can have some kind of like financial arrangement over time after a few accounts are under our belt.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So now, last bit I want to touch on is process.
Mm.
Um, because like having great people, having great productization is awesome and all, but if there's no, like you were talking about automation, but like let's just say client acquisition, like fulfilling for that client requires a process so you don't leak revenue or lose clients. What are some of the things that you put in place for your businesses to create standard operating procedures?
Yeah, so this is something that's near and dear to my heart because it's funny. I have the entrepreneur gene of I just want to go faster, further, push push push. But I also have, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't have this. It's like this. I've got this tug of war going on in me because I love process and system and seeing things like, hey, here's the step-by-step measurable way to do everything. And oftentimes those things are in serious conflict with each other, right? Because when you're just go, go, go for growth, then oftentimes the process stuff has a hard time keeping up and gets sacrificed. So for me, that means that what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to typically offload some of that process development to people on your team and let them do it for you. And so at our business, through trial and error, we created what we call the process. And I've used that tool literally for 15 years now. And all it is a very simple process that I give to you as an employee on my team or a part of my team for creating a process. So it's a process for creating a process that they just follow along and document what it is that they do every day. And it's really cool because then they have ownership of it, right? So it's them creating it. It's them finding the holes in what they're doing every day, the obvious kind of waste of time and things like that they're doing. And they get the opportunity to correct them before they ever bring them to you. So that feels good. And then it's not you force feeding them a process to follow, which for just about anybody, that's kind of a frustrating thing when somebody says, hey, here's exactly how you have to do your job, be a robot, don't think about it. It's the opposite. It's you saying, hey, look, you show me the best way to do things. And then when you're feeling stuck, we'll review that and we'll see if we can find some ways to improve it. But it puts it on them. And it's just always for us, it's always just been simplest is better, right? It's literally like step one, here's the things that you're going to do. Here's the outcome that will come from it. Here are the tools that you use to do that job. And it's just step 2, step 3, step 4, just following it through like that.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like we have somebody that we just brought on less than 30 days ago. His name's Ben. He may even be on here. And that was one of the things that we said, like, hey, you're going to be responsible for making this process a better process, and document everything, end of day reports, everything all set up. And even last night, we were talking about repositioning a script and like how to deliver the 4 pillars of success that we offer, go into the deliverables as the next step, and then how to place the offer is like how to move forward with us. And he's like, well, can we get on together? I said, you do it, send it to me, and if it's good, it's good. So just like you write your own process, you don't need me, you don't need me involved. So delegation is absolutely key. But
Yeah.
most importantly, if you're hearing this, Ben, it's trust in the person on the other side. Had I not trusted somebody, I
Yeah.
would have done it myself and just thinking, gosh, why couldn't this dude just do it alone?
Yeah. And it completely changes your ability to manage your business, because when something comes up, which it inevitably will, right? This customer is yelling at us about X, Y, and Z. We fell asleep at the wheel and didn't do this for him or whatever. Then it's about fixing the process. It's not about fixing the person, right? Because if you don't have a process, everybody's just going to point the finger at a person and say, well, it's their fault. They didn't do their job. But if it's about the process, then you can get together and you can say, hey, look, there's obviously something that's broken or missing or whatever in the process. Let's go through it and see what happened. Because I know you're doing your job, you're following your process, right? So it's a very important shift that will help you get the best out of the people on your team, and also give you as a manager something to actually manage, something that you can measure and manage, instead of just relying on whatever is in the head of the person.
Yeah, totally. So like for all you guys out there, you Facebook guys, marketing guys, digital guys, or whatever business you're in, I mean, start to document things, and you don't actually have to take pen and paper if you're kind of having that battle of I need to hustle and bustle and get sales. You can just go on Loom and record the process of what you wish would happen when you sold something. So now you're doing fulfillment, and then you can send that to somebody to transcribe and document into a step-by-step format. So if that's something you just suck at and aren't good at, that's good to recognize. But then just get somebody, whether it's a parent, a sister, a cousin, or just somebody who has already documented a process and you can buy for like on the internet. I mean, there's going to be something available. So think about how you can make your customer experience better, because it feels great to go from 0 to 10K a month and 10 to 20 and 20 to 50. But you want that experience that your customer feels by working with you to be like that Disneyland effect for your business, because then and then only then you can keep your monthly revenue. Otherwise, you'll constantly be that roller coaster guy that's chasing that next course, that's chasing the next client. And then when you chase, I'll promise you this, everything will run away.
Yeah,
Uh,
not a fun position to be in.
yeah, yeah. One thing I used to always say to the younger guys when I had a bigger sales team was, if you chase revenue, it's going to run. If you provide value, it'll chase you. So
Truth,
yeah, yeah.
truth.
Yeah, I'm desperate sometimes, and I'm not going to lie that I've been there too, and sometimes I may still be there. But
Gosh, yeah.
you just have to be disciplined enough to be able to have a big pipeline. Actually, speaking of pipelines, I want to touch on this. I know we have time against us at the moment, but
Okay.
I was looking at my notes from our previous interview that we did. It was actually, was it March 2019? So, and we talked about having a healthy pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, what are some things that people can do to maintain their healthy pipeline aside from that JV partnership side of things? Is that one channel? What else do you think? Like, let's just say somebody has 5 clients or under and they're just trying to get started. What are some areas that they can do to constantly never let that pipeline die?
Yeah, to me, and I commented on one of your posts recently. To me, it's all about content and promotion of content. I think that content plus paid traffic is the modern salesperson, right? I mean that is the modern sales force, I should say, because it works for you 24/7. It adds, you have the ability to add value at scale, right? I don't have to have an individual conversation with you to get the value from you now. So I think that everybody should be all over social media, putting out content wherever they can and whatever format they can, and promoting that content so that it's getting out there and people are seeing it. If you look at the financial investment of doing that and the impact of it versus the financial investment that I used to have to make in having big sales teams and relying on them to try and do outbound prospecting and do it consistently and doing it well, like it is so night and day, because my content has essentially infinite scalability. One, two, I know that the message is the message I want it to be because I produce the content, I can edit the content. Versus if you sit down with 10 different salespeople, all of them are going to have a different message and some of them are going to be horrible. And then it's totally variable. I may have a $10,000 ad budget this month and 20,000 next month, but then one month I need to scale back for whatever reason, can only spend five. I can't do that with salespeople. I can't just decide not to pay them one month and then pay them the next month. It doesn't work that way. So it has so many benefits that it's very similar when I said like having an automated sales system is like the first thing that everybody should do. Well, having content to put people into that automated sales system then is the next step.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely imperative. I love the fact that you said like you get to control your own narrative, your own message. So
Yeah.
you know what's going out is going to be consistent. But in addition, like when you're talking to prospects, you can tag them in those videos. So if you're doing whether it's a Facebook Live or just one on your phone and you want to get somebody to edit the top and bottom so it looks a little nicer, you can certainly do that stuff. It's not necessary, but you could. But yeah, you can tag people in all of those things. Like I do that all the time. Whenever a client is on the fence, I'll just tag them in a bunch of videos. I'll throw them in my group. And next thing you know, that relationship develops, kind of like if you guys were watching ESPN before all of this stuff happened, like you have your favorite person that you announces sports, and you have that relationship through his content. So we have that same opportunity to become a broadcaster of whatever it is we do for whatever industry we serve. So yeah, that's key. And like I mean, I'll challenge everybody here to do one every day. Do a short little 60-second video, 20-second video. It doesn't have to be long. But that's going to be the benefit you get to become local famous to your industry, but also just beware, you'll get more customers from it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the tagging people. My number one prospecting process in local now in San Diego is exactly what you said. It's just Instagram stories where I'm tagging the account on an Instagram story. And it's unbelievable the conversations and engagement that you create with business owners by doing that. It's like, it's almost automatic. Um, so that is by far, I think, the simplest way to prospect in today's world. And I'm a huge fan. I tell people to do a 30-day challenge, just a piece of content every day for 30 days, create the habit. You'll get through all the kinks of doing it that have been holding you back. Cause almost everybody that I talk to that is holding back, I'm not sure what to say. I don't have the cameras. I don't have the right microphones. I don't have things set up properly. I don't know how to edit. And it's like, yeah, if you just commit to it for 30 days, you're going to get through all that crap. Right. And you're going to realize, by the way, we just fired this up. We had like 4 different tech interruptions. We jumped out, jumped back in, jumped out, jumped back in. The content's going to get done. People are going to get value from this. We're going to get value from this. It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a Hollywood production. Just get the thing done. So I think that 30-day challenge mindset is critical for people.
Yeah, just to show you, like, here's the fancy mic, or yeah, there it is. And look behind me. Look at that camera. None of that. Those are the tech issues, and now I'm just using my built-in laptop. So, but it all worked out. It's all going to be fine. The quality of what we say in the message will fight through any kind of tech mouse or whatnot. And I'm a little crooked because it's on my wire, but in any event, like, yeah, I mean, guys, I hope you guys saw a lot of value in this. Mike, if you want to follow Mike, how do they get a hold of you, or how do they reach you on Facebook or LinkedIn, or however you like?
Yeah, well, for this agency world in particular, I'd say the best thing is digitalmarketinglab.io. Digitalmarketinglab.io is my website where I create content and training specifically for people in the agency world. And it's got all my social links on there and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd love to connect with people however they would like to connect.
Yeah, head on over there, guys, just to see what it is Mike offers. Like, I know he just mentioned Instagram stories and tagging people. So there's probably training videos and courses and stuff on those types of topics. So if you're struggling for clients and you want a simple way where you can sit behind your desk and reach thousands of people every single week, I mean, you have it right in front of you. So check out what Mike has to offer. Digitalmarketinglab.io is the website. So anyways, thanks, Mike, for spending another hour and fighting through all of our tech challenges, like the 3 or 4 that we had here.
Absolutely. I'm glad to. It's always great to connect. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise. All right. Cheers, Mike.
All right. Take care.